Welcome everyone to today's Explainer. Today we're basically stepping into the shoes of cosmic detectives. We are investigating a massive, ancient crime scene located deep in the Centaurus constellation. It's one of the absolute most enigmatic objects in our night sky, and we're going to use some incredibly cool forensic techniques to unlock its past. If you're someone who loves piecing together complex puzzles, you are totally in the right place.
Let's start with a number, 17,090. That's the distance, in light years, to our prime suspect. Astronomers know it as Caldwell 80, or you've probably heard its more famous name, Omega Centauri. By looking 17,090 light-years away, we're quite literally looking deep into the history of our own Milky Way galaxy. I mean, this single number instantly sets the massive, mind-boggling scale of our astrophysical investigation today.
Okay, let's dive right into this thing's physical profile. Omega Centauri is usually classified as a globular cluster, but its stats, they are absolutely staggering. We're talking about 10 million stars packed into a single cluster. 10 million! It weighs in at a colossal 4 million solar masses and spans over 150 light-years in diameter. It is literally the most massive, tidally disrupting globular cluster in our entire galaxy. But, its sheer size is really just the beginning of the mystery here.
Our first major forensic clue comes down to something called Osterhoff types. Now, standard globular clusters are usually pretty simple, right? They've formed all at once, from the exact same cloud of gas, so all their stars should logically share the same chemical makeup. They're typically either type I, which are more metal-rich, or type II, which are more metal-poor. But Omega Centauri? It uniquely exhibits properties of both. It completely breaks the standard rules of globular clusters because it harbors incredibly diverse stellar populations. This bizarre anomaly is a massive red flag, telling us we are definitely not looking at a simple, run-of-the-mill star cluster.
Tracking cosmic footprints.
So to figure out where this strange object actually came from, we need to track its physical movement through space. We do this using highly precise proper motion data from the Gaia Space Observatory. By kind of winding the clock backward, models suggest that at least 5 billion years ago, Omega Centauri began shedding massive amounts of its mass as it got caught in the gravitational pull of our Milky Way. Fast forward to the present day, and algorithms combing through Gaia DR2 data have discovered what's known as the Fimbulthal stream. This is an enormous trailing tidal arm stretching 18 to 28 degrees across the sky.
But here's the question. How do we know for absolutely sure this stream actually belongs to Omega Centauri? Well, when we take high-resolution spectroscopy of the stars within the Fimbulthal stream, it reveals that they're tightly grouped in their velocity. And even more importantly, they share a metallicity between -1.36 and -1.80. That isn't just a random set of numbers. It's an undeniable, perfectly matching fingerprint that links this massive tidal arm directly back to the core crime scene of Omega Centauri.
The spectroscopic fingerprints.
This brings us much deeper into the investigation. If we want to truly understand our suspect, we need to look at its DNA. Here's the exact forensic methodology researchers use to analyze the chemical makeup of individual stars. First, astronomers use these incredible multi-fiber spectrographs, instruments like Hydra on the Blanco 4-meter telescope or MUSE and Flames on the Very Large Telescope. They use these to isolate the light from thousands of individual stars, ranging from massive red giants all the way down to fainter main-sequence stars. Then, by measuring the equivalent widths of dark lines in the light spectrum, they can actually identify the specific abundances of heavy elements like silicon, calcium, and titanium. It is exactly like using a DNA sequencer, but to read the unique chemical barcodes of stars.
And this brilliantly illustrates what we find. Recent MUSE spectra revealed the normalized metallicity distributions of main-sequence stars in the cluster. Just think about that staggering spread of iron abundances. The metallicity of these stars spans more than an entire order of magnitude. This definitively proves that Omega Centauri is not just a single, happy generation of stars. It's a wildly complex system containing multiple distinct stellar populations that had to have formed over an extended period of time.
But here is where the plot really thickens. When astronomers look at the main sequence of stars in Omega Centauri, it actually bifurcates, splitting into two main paths, a red sequence and a blue sequence. Now, normally in astrophysics, redder stars are more metal-rich. It's just a general rule. But here, we see this totally counterintuitive anomaly. The red main sequence stars are surprisingly metal-poor, while the blue main sequence stars are actually more metal-rich, and they pack a significantly higher helium abundance. This complete reversal of the expected color progression demands a remarkably complex formation history. Simple clusters just do not do this.
Reading stellar DNN.
So, how on earth do we make sense of this chaotic mix of stellar populations? Well, scientists are now treating long-lived, low-mass stars as literal fossil records. Because new stars form from the gas enriched by previous generations of dying stars, they essentially inherit their chemical patterns. Researchers are using things like Gaussian mixture models and neighbor-joining clustering algorithms. Now, if those terms sound familiar, it's because they are the exact same statistical tools evolutionary biologists use to trace human ancestry, or even the evolution of languages. They're using them to map out the chemical traits passed down across generations of stars. It's literally a genetic ancestry test for the cosmos.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how we visualize these relationships. Astronomers map the chemical abundances of Omega Centauri stars onto actual phylogenetic trees, family trees, in both optical and infrared wavelengths. These branches connect the stars based on their shared chemical history. By adapting these tools from evolutionary biology, astronomers can physically see how these different stellar populations relate to one another. And it proves definitively that these stars did not just evolve in a simple, isolated bubble.
Let's move a step further and see how this builds. If you look at the specific tree topology of these stars, you'll notice all the tips seem to stem incident to the same long branch. In phylogenetics, this is known as a caterpillar tree. Now, simulations show that if a galaxy evolves in pure isolation, it creates this exact caterpillar shape. But the fact that we see multiple caterpillar branches interwoven in Omega Centauri's data, that signals a highly chaotic history, a history filled with strong accretion, merging, and immense mixing of completely different star systems. Verdict: cannibalized dwarf galaxy. So, the crucial point is this. After examining all the evidence, the Ostrov anomalies, the Fimbulthul tidal stream, the staggering spectroscopic spread, and those biological family trees, we're finally ready to deliver a definitive verdict on the true identity of Omega Centauri. The phylogenetic analysis reveals three distinct ancestral populations within the cluster. You have GC-Cen, which points to the merging of a metal-poor globular cluster. Then Block-Cen, showing a population that experienced prolonged star formation in an incredibly dense environment. And finally, Child-Cen, which is a totally unique population born in situ, right there in the cluster, with a chemical pattern unlike anything else in the Milky Way. Together, these three distinct populations prove Omega Centauri is not a normal globular cluster at all. It is the stripped, naked nuclear core of an ancient dwarf galaxy that was cannibalized by our Milky Way billions of years ago.
To wrap up this cosmic cold case, the researchers state in their definitive findings, our analysis supports the hypothesis that Omega Centauri might be a nuclear star cluster of a galaxy accreted by the Milky Way, with a mass of about 10 to the 9th solar masses. That is 1 billion times the mass of our Sun, mostly stripped away over the eons, leaving only this dense, complex core behind for us to find, 17,090 light-years away. We've essentially solved the mystery of Caldwell 80 by looking at the cosmos through a biological lens. But it leaves us with an incredible thought to ponder as we wrap up. If stars have chemical DNA that can actually be mapped on a biological family tree, what other biological tools might unlock the secrets of the non-living universe? As we continue to blur the lines between these disciplines, there is no telling what other cosmic mysteries we're about to solve. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep looking up.